Hey, good afternoon, everyone, and we are back once again with another episode of ARRI Asia Hour. I am YC, your host and moderator for the day. As with previous episodes, we have a Q&A portion at the end as well. So you can start sending in your questions right now and make sure that you click the question mark symbol at the bottom bar so you can access the chat box. As an incentive, of course, we have ARRI tote bags to give away if your questions are chosen. So please keep them coming. So this episode is really going to be quite interesting. It is going to be about the creative and technical work that goes into music video production. And this is how you can translate visuals, lyrics and music into stunning visuals. To help with this, we have actually invited filmmakers with extensive knowledge to share their experiences and some tips and tricks. So let me introduce DP, Kelvin, who is with us today at the studio right here in Singapore. He started his career designing multimedia projections and integrating technologies for performer and audience environments. His work spans music videos, commercial, and fashion films, and his style leans towards a heightened realism and fusing cinematic images with a touch of theatrics. So welcome to ARRI Asia Hour, Kelvin.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we also have the amazing team from Region Film Korea who will be joining us online from Seoul. First up is director Don Jang, who has worked on more than 200 music videos, TV commercials, and brand films, all of which bears his sophisticated visual styles and narration skills. And with him is his longtime collaborator and cinematographer, Mr. Sung Hun Hong, whose portfolio also boasts an extensive list of music videos from A-list artists and TV commercials from top brands. He is constantly fascinated by the physics of light and creating smooth camera movements with dynamic angles. Let us welcome Dongju and Sung Han to the live. They will be answering our questions today through a translator. Unfortunately, due to personal circumstances, we are unable to have director Rima Yoon with us today. However, we wish her all the best, but rest assured, both Dongju and Sung Han will have more than enough insight to share with us today. So let's get right into it. Yeah. So hey, Kelvin, thanks for coming on. Yeah. So as a cinematographer, how do you translate lyrics and music into visuals? Let's take your latest work, Quen Anh Di, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, as an example. What was your creative process behind the cinematography? And how do you negotiate the relationship between the artist, director, as well as the cinematographer?
So firstly, thank you for bringing me on board onto this. I think I will start with answering the last question first. I think like the relationship between these multiple parties like usually defines the process of music video. So I think for a music video, besides these three parties, sometimes there's also the involvement of the label, or maybe in some instances there's also a creative director. And a lot of times the cinematographers are brought on board when the concepts are already like kind of developed. And when you join, the cinematographers are essentially acting like a bridge between these like multiple parties. I think one of the first thing to understand when you first join the project is like really what is the artistic intent that is injected from like all these multiple like parties, and from there you act as a technical bridge to kind of find a way to bring together their ideas and find an opportunity at the same time to inject your own your own sensibility in it. At the end of the day, the thing about music video is that it is still selling the artist. It is almost like a commercial for the artist. So whatever like creative decisions that you do, it should still point towards like elevating like the music or bringing out the artistic intent of the musician. So I mean, moving into the process, I think one of the first thing when I get a track is to identify the color and energy in the music. I tend to figure out like at which part of the music should it be like should be darker or should be brighter, like the moods that usually you can tell a little bit of mood in the music. And the other thing is also the energy of different parts of the music, try to map like what kind of camera move, what's the energy of the camera, or like what kind of lighting animation that can happen during that part. The next steps that I usually take is that I'll probably do a little bit of artist research. I tend to like watch through like videos that the artist was in before, or like maybe go through like stalking the Instagram of the artist, just to just to see, just to figure out like what's the best angles or like find out the vibe of the artist. I think that helps to give me a mental image of how to portray the artist when I start planning the shoot. And usually after that, the first step that I do is, of course, to create like a mood board. Take Quen Anh Di for example. I think when I joined the project, I think for that project there is a creative director, so a lot of the concepts were already kind of like developed. Like we know like certain visuals that we want to go for, but that project deals with like quite big concepts in terms of like it's dealing with elements, so like wind, fire, and water, and it's about like thinking about how you can scale it within like the resources that we have, but at the same time also to figure out like how can we create like visual variations from it. So yeah, I think we are showing some of the mood boards that I did, right? Yeah. So that's the mood board that I've done for that. Also something that is not always possible, but given the opportunity, I find that having animatics for music videos really help. I think it helps you to to figure out whether like camera movements that you have planned or scenes that you have planned like work in that particular part of the music. It just gives you confidence, but also the other thing that is helpful on set, because sometimes we set on music video sets is always very frantic, always chasing for time, or like there's just a lot of things like happening, and or sometimes there's fatigue that sets in. Animatics help to keep you in check, allowing you to constantly refer to it to make sure that you don't deviate like too much like from it. So again, it gives you confidence even during the shoot itself. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's the basic steps that I take in the pre-production process of music videos. Yeah.
Wow, so it sounds like a lot of thought. There's, of course, there's artist research, and then there's listening to the music, getting a feel of the style. So this is where I would actually ask this particular question to our friends in Korea as well. So to the region team, right? You guys recently shot Talk the Talk by Twice. Wow, A-listers, and Hot by 17. So as a director and cinematographer, how did you guys work together to create the correct visuals and the correct visuals for the songs, I mean? And are there any special considerations you take note of when you deal with A-listers? Is there a large time-sensitive issue at hand? Or yeah, how do you guys go? I'll be very interested to hear from you guys.
예, 감독님들께서는 최근에 트와이스의 톡 더 톡이라든지 아니면 세븐틴의 핫 같은 이제 그 K-팝 뮤직비디오를 촬영을 하셨는데요. 혹시 이제 그 감독님과 이제 그 촬영 감독님으로서 이제 음악에 맞는 비주얼을 만들어내기 위해서 어떤 방식으로 이제 그 크리에이티브 프로세스가 있었는지 그 부분에 대해서 궁금하고요. 또 혹시 그 탑 클래스의 K-팝 아티스트들하고 함께 작업을 하시면서 혹시 뭐 또 특별하게 고려하시는 부분이 있는지도 궁금합니다.
First of all, thank you for amazing introduction, YC. 네. 음악을 위해 적합한 비주얼을 만드는데 중요한 부분은 단연 그 커뮤니케이션이라고 생각을 해요. 먼저 클라이언트와의 커뮤니케이션을 통해서 그들이 원하는 니즈를 먼저 파악하고 그걸 토대로 생각해낸 컨셉의 비주얼을 머릿속에서 꺼내내는데도 역시 커뮤니케이션이 굉장히 중요하기 때문입니다.
Yeah, it is safe to say that communication is one of the most important key points to make the visual work for the music. Because, well, as Kelvin aptly pointed it out, while the relationship between the client and us as the creator of the music video is very, very important to reach some kind of a consensus in terms of the music video concept. First, you need to communicate thoroughly with the client. You got to catch the needs for them, and then put the visuals out of your head according to the set concept and discuss about it.
또한 그 클라이언트의 니즈를 통해서 정해진 키워드나 키메시지를 기반으로 장르를 구분하지 않고 다양한 매체를 통해서 통한 레퍼런스에서 영감을 많이 받고 그것을 체계화한 후에 가장 적합한 비주얼을 저희 방식대로 저희의 음악에 맞춰서 만들어내는 시간을 많이 할애하는 편입니다.
So when you communicate with the clients about their needs, there are certain keywords and key messages pop up. Based on those kind of themes, where we gather feeding references through the various medias and the arts, where regardless of the genres. Well, just like Kelvin said, well, he just goes directly into the artist's Instagram pages or the artist's the previous music videos, where we get the inspirations from almost like a similar process. Once we get certain inspirations from those kind of references, and then we structuralize and spend a lot of time creating the most appropriate visuals for the project.
또한 프리프로덕션 단계에서 멈추지 않고 그 현장에서도 더 좋은 비주얼을 담아내기 위해 즉흥적인 이미지를 담아내기도 하는데요. 그런 부분에서 이제 희열을 느끼고 클라이언트도 공감을 해주고 아티스트도 만족해 할 때 뮤직비디오 감독으로서의 보람을 느낍니다.
Well, this kind of conceptualization process doesn't end with the pre-production stage. Sometimes where we have to shoot spontaneously on the set to get the better visuals. When it works, we feel really ecstatic. If the client raves out the result, that's when you get the kick out of being music video director. Thank you very much, Mr. Jang. Could you please, 그러면 홍 감독님은 어떻게 생각하시는지도 한번 여쭤보도록 하겠습니다.
뮤직비디오는 굉장히 비주얼을 중요하게 여기고 있는데요. 비주얼을 만들기 위해서 연출 감독님과 다양한 이야기를 나누고 있고, 그리고 감독님은 생각한 비주얼과 영상들을 보면서 어떻게 하면 우리가 만드는 영상에 어울릴 수 있게 촬영할 수 있을지, 그런 생각들을 굉장히 많이 생각하면서 준비하고 있어요.
So the visual is everything when it comes down to the music video production. To make the visual works, we always talk to each other, Mr. Jang and me. They're watching the various referential visuals and the clips prepared by the Mr. Jang, the directors, in order to keep thinking what we should do to make them transpire into our project at hand.
생각보다 뮤직비디오 촬영적으로 준비하는 시간이 굉장히 부족하기 때문에 로케이션 답사를 하거나 촬영 현장에서 생각한 비주얼을 만들어가는 것들이 굉장히 많이 있어요. 의외로 이런 것들이 재미있는 것들이 많이 나오는 것 같아요.
So true to common beliefs, the music video shooting is usually a struggle against time. So more often than not, where we have to work together spontaneously during the production stage to make our preconceived visuals work. Well, he personally considers that while there have been many interesting results stemming from the improvised visuals during the location hunting or even the actual shooting stage itself. Well, that's it for the first question.
Yeah, wow. So definitely sounds like there's a lot to unpack over here. One of the things that I found was quite interesting from the Korean team was that they emphasized about the client. So this is something that I believe we all need to take note of, as you know, music videos for artists is literally branding as well. So working on that, right? So I want to find out a little bit more from both of you as well. What steps do you guys take from, say, pre-production to the actual principal photography? So like when you guys are shooting music videos, is there anything special to consider, especially the technical aspects? And I think we can have Kelvin answer this one first as well.
Yeah. Earlier part of the conversation was a lot about like conceptualizing the idea. But now moving into the technical process, in a country, especially like Singapore, where I think a lot of music videos are pretty much like set driven because of our environment and also like our landscape. So a lot of our ideas are contained like within sets. So one of the main first step to it is actually talking to the art director. I think like a lot of times like in music videos, like art, it's like one of the most important aspect of like making a music video. Talking to the art director about like the aesthetic of the set, the textures that you want to see, the sizing of the set, or like how you can cater the set to allow you to light. So that's a technical process like by itself. And I would go to the extent to say that sometimes like, you know, having good art is like half the better one. Like you can sacrifice everything else, but like art to me is something that cannot like be sacrificed. So that's like and sometimes even like I will even work with the art director to take their 3D files so that I can pre-visualize like the lighting mood of the set, just to make sure that everything it's like according like everyone is aligned to how the music videos will eventually look. The other thing I wanted to talk about is like CG. I think CG, the relationship between CG artists and cinematographers is a tricky one, because a lot of times like when there's CG involved, like if there's blue screen and stuff like that, the CG supervisor or CG team will always tell you like there's a lot of things that you cannot do, like you have to light brighter, there's many things that they will tell you, and it's very natural that we tend to be rebellious against it, and you feel at that point frustrated about like why do we have to do this, or why do we need so many tracking markers. But the thing is that CG people are there to help us make things better, especially with limited budget. I think what CG can do helps to add a lot of value to music videos, especially in, for example, in Quen Anh Di, like the visual effects was really like 50% of the game. Like if we didn't have the visual effects, like I think we wouldn't have the same kind of skill that I could feel in the music video. So I think the moral of the story, I feel, but that's something that I constantly still tell myself, is to treat the CG guys like better. And so that's CG, but the other thing is also colorist. I find that at least in this part of the world, in this industry here, like many times when we plan a shoot, we tend to put our budget in many different places, and whatever that is left over, then we start finding like which colorist fits into this project. It's almost like color a lot of times is like an afterthought, but I feel that like colorists, like after spending so much money, let's say you spend a few $100,000, like everything is in the hands of the colorist that is doing like the finishing of the project. So the colorist is important, and I think there should be more thought placed onto like the selection of colorists or who you want to bring aboard as a colorist, and to treat them as a creative collaborator that makes a difference to the project. And especially with COVID, I think one good thing that has happened from COVID is that the world is a lot closer. It's like how we are having this like talk with like the Korean partners with remote like workflows. The world is a lot closer, and now cross-continental collaboration is possible. And I think for color, I think color is always like, I always believe that color, the way you see color is affected by your environment. So how we see color here is very different from how someone else in another country see color. It is beyond just skill set. It's really like your environment that affects your taste. So like bring a colorist from somewhere else might add a different dimension to your music video, simply because they look at the project from a different viewpoint. So that's for CG and color. And I think then we move on to like creating of like lighting plans. So for me, I think my relationship with my gaffer, I tend to, so I usually do like lighting plans, but the lighting plans usually is for myself to figure out like what am I missing, or what works or what doesn't work. And I find that a lot of times only after you draw it out, then you realize like whether like what you had in your head really works. But I tend not to feed this to the gaffer, but I see my gaffer also as a creative collaborator. I enjoy listening to their viewpoints, and I also believe that you hire the best people so that you can learn from them. So if you're hiring someone good, then allow them to also input their creativity in the project. But I think one good thing about doing lighting plans is that if you're shooting in a foreign country and you're dealing with like a different native language, lighting plan is like a universal language, right? So I think once you do a lighting plan, you mitigate like any like miscommunication that might happen during the process of planning for the shoot. I think the last thing that I usually do is lighting animation. I think lighting animation is something that is quite close to heart, because like it's just an area of interest that I have, and I always tend to add like some sparkles to music video through lighting animation. And I generally prefer to do lighting animation like myself, because I feel that when you're doing lighting animation on set, it's almost like painting, like you're just like DJing. There's push-pull, just to, you can feel where the colors go according to the performance, or like how the lighting animation should go according to the performance. And yeah, and I enjoy the process. So that's quite common in my process of planning for a shoot. Yeah.
Wow, so we asked for technical aspects and we got a whole lot more, definitely. Yeah, so everything from designing lighting as well as collaboration. And I thought the part that you brought up about the collaboration ideology, working with different people, I thought that's very inspired actually, because we tend not to talk so much about colorists but as you mentioned, but now it seems like we pull them a little bit more into the limelight to showcase their work, because I think at the end of it, they're the ones that do the finishing, right? Yeah. So that is from Kelvin. So I think the region guys will also have a very interesting take on this as well. So maybe you guys can let us know. I know that you guys, for K-pop MVs especially, right, there's like over the top sets and there's like multiple sets as well. And you guys also do choreography. So how much pre-production goes into it? And do you guys have like a timeline? Because it sounds like there's a lot of things to pack together. Give us an idea about the production planning behind the scenes.
저 이번에는 그 리젠드 팀한테 이제 질문을 드리고 싶은데요. 특히 이제 K-pop 뮤직비디오 같은 경우에는 세트가 굉장히 휘황찬란하고 또 코레오그래피를 굉장히 엄청나게 역동적인 프레임으로 커버하는 걸로도 굉장히 유명한데요. 혹시 이런 K-pop 뮤직비디오 어떤 특별한 표준화된 기획 단계가 있는지, 마쿠 기획이나 아니면 그 K-pop 기획 단계에서 뮤직비디오 기획 단계의 타임라인에 대해서도 질문해드리고 싶습니다.
K-pop 뮤직비디오는 아티스트의 춤은 물론이고 그 가창 그리고 이미지, 아티스트 이미지까지 4분 안에 다양하게 담아내야 하는 특징을 가지고 있습니다. 세븐틴이나 트와이스 같은 다인원 아티스트라든지 혹은 솔로 아티스트여도 그 댄서들이 항상 춤을 추기 때문에 세트나 로케이션을 고려할 때 춤을 출 수 있는 공간이 확보되어야 하고 이미지와 립싱크도 담아낼 수 있는 별개의 공간들이 많이 고려가 됩니다. 그래서 뮤직비디오는 특히 아트 분야가 중요하다고 생각을 해요.
So usually in K-pop music videos, you need to put everything in a very diverse style, including artist vocal, dance choreography, the visuals, within very limited time, say 4 minutes average. Well, there are many artist members for just one team, say 17 or twice. Even if the artist is a solo, normally there are a lot of dancers involved. So you have to consider the set or the location, well, if it is big enough for the big group dance choreography. Also, there are spaces for the isolated images and lip syncs. All in all, he considers that art department plays a really pivotal role in K-pop music video productions.
평균적으로 3, 4주 정도의 프리 프로덕션 기간을 거쳐서 촬영을 하게 되는데 어떤 프로젝트 같은 경우는 안무나 음원 가사가 촬영을 며칠 앞두고 이제 바뀌게 되면서 촬영 감독님과 상의하고 정리했던 촬영 동선이나 소품 등을 밤새서 교체해야 되는 상황도 있었습니다. 그런 부분은 프로덕션 입장에선 가장 힘든 순간이라고 할 수가 있죠.
So we go into the shooting after 3 to 4 weeks of average pre-productions, but there are also some cases where the performances, sources, or the lyrics changed just a few days prior to shooting. That's when all the hell break loose in terms of the production point of view. For instance, Mr. Jang and Mr. Hong all planned out the performance shooting workflow and got ready for all the props for this particular shoot. Then, they received a notice of changes 3 days prior to shooting and spent next 3 days and nights getting ready from the scratch.
우선 퍼포먼스를 촬영하기 위해서는 상당히 많은 시간을 퍼포먼스 영상을 보면서 음악의 타이밍에 맞춰 무빙을 어떻게 할 것인가에 대한 생각도 많이 하고 있고요. 그리고 K-pop 뮤직비디오는 특히 지미주를 많이 촬영하고 있습니다. 주어진 시간에 많은 이미지와 샷들을 많이 촬영할 수 있고 그리고 다양한 안무의 포인트를 담아낼 수가 있어서 사용하고 있고요.
So for Mr. Hong, he gives a lot of thought on how camera will move based on watching the respective music performance clips again and again. A lot of K-pop music videos extensively uses Jimmy Jeep. Because, there's nothing quite like it when it comes down to shooting the many insert shots within a very restricted timetable. And also, it is very steady and fastly capturing the various attractive points of a super fast moving the dance performances.
그리고 재미있는 것은 한국의 뮤직비디오 지뮤직 기사는 퍼포먼스를 알아서 다 외워와서 촬영 현장에서 연습도 없이 멋있게 샷들을 다 잡아낼 수 있고, 그리고 그게 K-팝만의 장점인 것 같아요.
So the funny thing is that the many Korean music video, the Jimmy Jeep operators, well, they usually memorize the dance performances themselves because sometimes they have to shoot on the spot without the rehearsal, but they get the shots beautifully, nonethelessly. Well, he supposes that that's one of the unique kicks the K-pop music videos got.
그리고 임팩트한 무빙을 위해서 짐벌 샷을 섞어서 촬영하고 있는데요. 제가 좋아하는 무빙이 다이나믹하고 인물에 붙어서 촬영한 샷들을 좋아합니다. 그래서 처음에는 퍼포먼스 영상을 눈으로 보면서 외웠는데 잘 외워지지 않았는데 여러 가지 방법을 시도한 끝에 컴퓨터 소프트를 통해서 영상에 짐벌 무빙을 입혀서 그 무빙을 계속해서 외우는 그런 방식을 활용하고 있습니다.
Well, lastly, he also makes gimbal shots here and there for a very dynamic camera movement with a strong impact. Well, his preference is a dynamic shot with intimate close-ups. For gimbal shots, he also memorizes performances using many different ways, just like a Jimmy Jeep operators do. For gimbal shots, he at first he just couldn't do very well just by looking at the music performance clips. Currently, he uses the Adobe After Effects computer program, overlaying the gimbal movements on top of the performance clips and memorize the camera movements in advance. It suits him very well.
Definitely sounds like a lot of pre-planning production, as we have always mentioned before, especially the technical aspects. And using Adobe After Effects for overlays, that is new. I've never heard that before. And definitely a very interesting workflow right there. Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of workflow, and, we guys have been talking about Jimmy Jeeps, and we've been talking about using gimbals, right? So, this, I think, actually leads very well to our next question, which is what are the considerations for both of you guys, or both teams actually, when you are choosing your camera and lighting packages? Because if you are going to be using it on a Jimmy Jeep and a gimbal, as you guys mentioned, there has to be a size consideration, I believe. And this is something that I think I want to learn a little bit more about. So are there any particular features or requirements that is a standard need for every single MV that you are shooting? So maybe Kelvin, you can start with this.
So in terms of lighting, for me, like these days, I tend to prefer like using LEDs, especially on music video sets. LEDs because I think music video sets are fast moving, and it always requires some sort of flexibility to augment whenever whatever you plan and by the time the artist enters the set, usually something feels a little bit different and there's some changes that you want to make to it. So LEDs have the flexibility because you can change color quick, you can change intensity quick. But I think more importantly, LEDs gives you the potential to introduce lighting animation, like being able to switch colors on the move in an animated way. I think that's the main draw of LEDs. So when it comes to selecting LEDs, then I think it's about two key things. It's about its dimmer curve and DMX functionality, like it being able to dim smoothly to 0 or to 100, and also like its reliability when. A lot of times when you use sky panels, for example, it's overhung. You want to be sure that like whatever that you set for DMX, it's going to be reliable and it just works. So for me, I think in music videos, I think sky panel is the standard. It has proven to be reliable in many cases, and it's something that if budget allows, I'll usually try to keep to using most of that. In terms of camera, I think in this camera these days is technology has progressed to an extent whereby all cameras are kind of like good enough to be pushed to a certain extent is post-production. But I think in this part of the world, there's always a preference towards like more beauty type or like softer, cleaner skin tones. So because of that, I think because of that taste, I tend to use like Alexa's a little bit more. I shot most of my music videos on Alexa LF. While it's possible to push image to in post, but I think it's the onset feeling that you get being able to view the image and having that kind of skin already like on screen just makes everyone like more comfortable. So that's why I usually stick to that. And in terms of lenses, I tend to rotate my lenses based on the project. I usually, if time allows, I will tend to do like at least a lens test or with a little bit of lighting, so that with filters, so that I can like, at least like show the director, for example, and have a conversation on the looks that we are going for. But I mainly rotate between like two different lens sets. So signature primes if I want to go for a more modern, like clean look, and if I want to go for something a little bit more textured, I tend to prefer like a lens like Leica Rs. So yeah, I mean that's the equipment part.
Wow. Okay. So, I mean, as we heard from Kelvin, sometimes it's very interesting how they give us insights, from their perspective, which is about the dimming curve, how accurately, I guess, it dims and is proportionate from 0% to 100%. So, moving on to our friends in Korea, right? So, for the region team, as with Kelvin's question, what are the particular requirements that you look for in your camera and light packages? And is there anything like is 100% required regardless of what MV you are shooting?
So 방금 전 이번 이전 질문에서는 이제 그 지미집이라든지 아니면 이제 그 짐벌 같이 그 좀 다양한 종류의 이제 그 장비들을 사용을 하신다고 들었는데요. 혹시 그 특히 뮤직비디오 촬영을 하실 때 있어서 그 카메라나 아니면 조명 패키지를 선택을 하실 때 특별히 고려하시는 부분이 뭔지, 아니면 촬영하시는 뮤직비디오를 위해서 뭐 특정한 기준이나 아니면 이제 그 100% 이제 필요로 하는 장비들이 있는지에 대해서 좀 궁금합니다.
지금은 뮤직비디오를 알렉사 미니 LF로 촬영하고 있고요. 알렉사 카메라가 빛을 받아들이고 그것을 아름답게 표현해준 다이내믹 렌즈랑 아리만이 가지고 있는 룩과 피부톤을 선호하고 있어서 사용하고 있습니다.
So currently, Mr. Hong shoots music video projects exclusively with Alexa Mini LF. Its dynamic range is such a breathtaking as to receive the light and reproduce them very beautifully. Also, he prefers the look and the skin tone only the ARRI cameras can reproduce.
토크앤토크는 좁은 로케이션이 많았는데 풀프레임이다 보니까 좁은 공간에서도 왜곡이 없는 망원 렌즈를 써도 인물과 배경을 같이 다 잡아낼 수 있는 점이 좋았고요. 그리고 더 밝은 노출과 얕은 심도로 인물의 집중도를 높일 수 있어서 항상 사용하고 있고요. 그리고 제가 촬영하는 뮤직비디오 특성상 다양한 셋업으로 변경되는 것들이 굉장히 많은데 알렉사 카메라는 그런 셋업들이나 변경되는 것들을 되게 편하게 해줬고, 그리고 간편하고 빠르게 제가 작업할 수 있도록 도와줘서 시간 단축도 되고 해서 즐겨서 사용하는 장비입니다.
Yeah, there were a lot of confined spaces. For example, the Talk and Talk project by Twice. Even that kind of limited spaces where we could use distortion-free telephoto series lenses and get the people and the background at the same time, since it's a full-frame camera. It's always a plus when you can use a very narrow depth of field from the bright lenses to accentuate the main characters. So Mr. Hong uses them all the time. Alexa Mini LF makes his life much easier since he had to do so many transitions from one setup to another due to the various specifics of the visual concept. It's really lovely to work with Alexa Mini LF since it's very easy, safe, and most importantly, it saves time.
뮤직비디오는 거의 모든 베이스들 빛들을 스카이펜으로 사용하고 있고요. 그리고 다양한 컬러와 셋업들을 바꿔가면서 세부적으로 조절하는 것들이 많은데 그런 것들을 스카이펜으로는 무선으로 편리하게 빛을 조절할 수 있고 세부적으로 색감들을 표현할 수 있어서 뮤직비디오 현장에서 빠르고 편리하게 비주얼을 만드는데 이만큼 좋은 조명은 없는 것 같아요.
So for the lightings, almost all the base lightings are from the sky panels. Well, there are a lot of changes involving the wide range of colors and the setups, and they usually require very detailed controls. With the sky panels, where he could conveniently control the multiple lights using the wireless application feature, and well, you can just easily control the overhead, the lighting fixtures with the DMX settings. With the sky panels, well, he could conveniently control the multiple lights using the wireless features. Well, nothing beats a sky panel in the music video production set when he considers how it reproduces the exact colors of his liking in a blink.
So seems like it's both sky panels is the light of choice due to DMX and reliability, and of course the ability to change your lighting settings very easily. So with actually this in mind, so we've been talking about using Alexa Mini LFs, we've been talking about signature primes, sky panels, and of course there's an elephant in the room, right? All these things cost a lot of money. So what I'm interested to find out now is, how do you guys deal with the fact that for certain productions there might be lower budgets, number one, and how do you overcome it? How do you make full use of the budgets? Because I'm sure like the region team, you guys have come a very, very long way from since you started out, and you never had that full range of budget that you had to work with. So perhaps, and same goes for Kelvin as well. So maybe I'll hear from Kelvin, how do you work around the budget? And if the budget is low, is there any tips and tricks, to work with it to get the maximum results?
Yeah. So I think when it comes to resources, like I think making a music video or actually making film in general, there's usually two key pillars, which is the budget and time. But I feel that budget and time is not like mutually exclusive. Sometimes like if you have more of one, either one, it helps to balances it. So I think when you don't have budget, I think it's important that you have time, because I think with time you can plan more, you can prepare more stuff, and you can find more solutions to help make it work. But I think the problem is when you don't have budget and time, because I think even in a bigger project, like even if you have a lot of money but you have very little time, half the time you're using money to solve problems, but not actually it might not necessarily translate to a better like result. So yeah, time is important. And I think the other thing about dealing with like having a lack of resources is to first like find out what you have access to first. Like the process when you don't have resources is to first find out like what you can get, especially for DP, is like what kind of equipment you have access to based off like maybe this budget that you have, or like what kind of favors that you call in. I think once you know what tools are available and what like you can get your hands on, you can then work an idea around like what you can get. I think the risk of starting with an idea first is that sometimes you can develop the idea only to realize that actually you completely cannot like afford like this idea. And when that happens, then you start to find a solution to like work around it, right? But the truth is that it's a psyche thing where you start finding solutions to work around it, there's a chance that you start thinking that, hey, maybe like there's a part of you will feel like it's a compromise from the initial big idea that you have. So I think to prevent that from happening, if you start with like knowing what resources you have and you work around it, then I think you'll be able to maximize the kind of resources that you have. And the other thing is also, I think one other important thing is to think outside of the box. I think for like maybe people that are starting out, when we talk about using things like sky panels or any like high-end like equipment, a lot of it is about reliability and like flexibility and ease of use. But it's not completely necessary to be using that kind of equipment. Like I think for me starting out, like I remember like there are times that I will build like some lighting fixtures out of practicals, or like to create like effects out of, I don't know, practical demons or stuff like that. Like it's not impossible to do something good if you improvise like the resources that you have. So yeah, think out of the box. I think the last thing that is important is to plan. I think when you don't have enough resources, all the more it's important to plan in detail, to flesh out everything that you need. I think the more you plan, the more it allows you to have the flexibility to improvise on set and react to things. I think the risk of not planning is that if you don't plan enough and you have very little resources and you go on to shoot, if something happens, then you might not have the ability to react fast enough to it. And when you don't have the ability to react fast enough to it, that's when it incurs even like more cost that stretches like a really inherently small budget. So I think planning really, really helps to allow you to maximize like the resources that you have. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. So we went from talking about money back to talking about planning. So I think based on all the questions that we had so far, it's pretty obvious that pre-production is extremely important. So this is so I'll ask the exact same question to our friends in Korea, right? You guys started quite a long while ago, and I'm pretty sure when you guys first started shooting, you didn't have the kind of budgets that you have access to right now. So perhaps you guys can share with us, how do you overcome it, and what are some other ways that people can work around small budgets.
네, 처음에 이제 이 프로덕션, 뮤직비디오 프로덕션을 이제 시작을 하셨을 때에는 뭐 지금처럼 이제 굉장히 고가의 장비들을 사용을 하지를 않으시고, 처음에는 굉장히 좀 힘들게, 좀 저예산으로 시작을 하셨을 것 같아요. 근데 지금 이제, 이런 어려움들을 이제 어떤 방식으로 이제 극복을 하셨는지, 또 예산을 관리를 하는 거에 있어서, 특히 이제 저예산 뮤직비디오 제작 프로덕션 같은 경우에는 어떤 방식으로 이제 그 예산을 관리하는 팁이 있는지 좀 특별한 조언이 있으시다면 여쭤보고 싶습니다.
리전드 필름도 이제 6, 7년 전쯤에는 저예산 뮤직비디오를 제작하던 프로덕션 초반이 있었는데요. 그때 가장 많이 도움을 받을 수 있었던 건 역시 조감독 경험을 통해 형성된 인프라를 활용하는 방법이 큰 도움이 되었던 것 같습니다. 스태프들과 장비 부분에서 큰 도움을 받을 수 있었기 때문인데요. 조감독 생활이 꼭 필수의 조건은 아니니 영상을 하고자 하는 팀원을 끌릴 수 있는 커뮤니티 활동이나 개인 작업을 통해서 자신이 가지고 있는 강점을 홍보하고 그와 함께 할 수 있는 동반자를 갖는 것도 방법이 될 것 같습니다.
So Mr. Jang says that Kelvin already mentioned a very few great tips with the small budget music video productions. So he just would like to mention a little bit different aspect because with the recent film, had is a share of a low budget music video production times like 6 or 7 years ago. Well, what he would like to stress out is that people power is really important for the low budget films. Well, he thinks that his assistant director gigs and the way of using the infrastructure he's got through them have that really breakthrough. Well, he could get many helps, especially in the hiring steps and the gears. Well, this kind of experience is not mandatory though. He supposed that, he could be, you can be also actively involved in the community activities with the people who have a passion towards filmmaking. Also, you can promote your strength through the personal projects and look for the like-minded partners.
연출과 제작 부분으로 말씀을 드리면 프리프로덕션에서의 세밀함과 저예산 대비 고효율이 높은 컨셉, 아트 부분을 고민하는 시간을 많이 갖는 걸 추천합니다. 여러 가지 얼터의 이제 소품과 씬들은 확신 없이 그 제작 비용을 높이는 경우가 굉장히 많습니다. 그래서 연출자 혹은 제작자로서의 확신과 결단을 통해 찍고자 하는 씬에 몰입하는 것을 꼭 필요로 합니다.
Yeah, to conclude Mr. Chang's answer, he personally recommend the time of a serious contemplation by yourself. When you put thoughts on details while during the preparation stage, concepts and the art directions that can yield high return even with low budget and things like that. There are many cases in the independent music video production scene where the production costs for sets and the props just to go like a skyrocketing without any sign of determinations or any kind of directions. But it's very necessary to totally immerse yourself into whatever scene while you want to shoot with a very precisely decisiveness and the determinations as a producer or the director. Well, that will be all.
Wow, fantastic. So it's like we start talking about budget, but instead of actually talking about like physical budget, you guys actually started talking about planning, having a clear sense of direction, collaboration, all of which actually helps to save money, even though they are not physically, monetary factors. So actually, there are a lot of questions, and I'll actually head into them right now. So actually, the first question that I thought was really interesting that I can see over here is that how do you guys, both Kelvin and the region team, maybe the region team will be the first one to answer this, is how do you guys make your music videos unique? Because, music videos, a lot of them have similar ideas and concepts. How do you make yours stand out? Yeah.
저 리젠트 필름에 먼저 질문을 드리고 싶은데요. 지금 이제 그 들어온 질문 중에 하나가 이제 어떻게 이제 그 리젠트 필름 같은 경우에는 직접 이제 그 제작하시는 뮤직비디오를 어떻게 이제 그 개성이 강하게 만드는지 혹시 이제 리젠트 필름만이 가지고 있는 노하우가 있다면 이라고 이제 여쭤보고 있어요.
일단 노하우라 하기보다는 일단 남들이 해온 방식, 레퍼런스를 많이 쌓는 것은 굉장히 중요하지만 그것을 그대로 따라하는 것은 절대 차별화도 될 뿐만 아니라 개성을 가질 수가 없잖아요. 그래서 레퍼런스를 통해서 리전드만의 그 비주얼을 만들어내는데 시간을 굉장히 많이 보내고 있어요. 그래서 한 번 응용을 한다는 거에서 그치지 않고 두 번, 세 번까지 계속 고민을 해서 이 비주얼이 다른 데에서 봤던 그림인지 아닌지에 대해서 굉장히 많이 신경을 쓰고 보지 않았던 그림을 더 시청자들에게 보여주기 위해서 고민하는 시간을 많이 갖는다고 말씀드리고 싶네요.
Well, this answer has been mentioned in the previous questions, but Mr. Jang really would like to put a very strong emphasis on acquiring the references from your personal levels, because it doesn't really matter what kind of genre or what kind of art or what kind of medias you get these kind of references. But the important thing is that you really need to think it through to make these kind of references into your inner self. Otherwise, it is going to become very easy to just mimic these kind of references without any kind of a thought or any kind of a depth. So in order to make your music video works very unique, you need to have some kind of the mindset to filter these kind of references and make them for yourself.
Okay, fantastic. So injecting a sense of self into the works that you do. Yeah, that sounds exactly like what a lot of filmmakers would want. So Kelvin, maybe on to you. So just to repeat the question, how do you make music videos unique and special? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm just going to build on a little bit on what Jang has already said. Again, I think today I don't think we live in a world that you can call yourself like you are the first to think of an idea. I think idea is always a summation of many different influences, and especially today, these days when you take in so much visuals every day through socials and everything else, you're always going to be inspired by something that you have seen before. So I guess uniqueness is how you mix together all these different references and what Jang said, and then filtering out based off your own taste and perspective. But I think the other thing that we can also think about, especially in Asia, is that I think in Asia, especially or in Southeast Asia or in Asia in general, we have our own distinct what do you call it, native aesthetic, localized style or sensibility in that different region. And I think injecting some of that kind of influence from your own culture, help together with the references that you might see online, helps to augment the idea to make something that is unique to the artist. Yeah.
Wow, fantastic. So, for both of them, definitely there's a sense of being able, right, to say, to put your personal stamp on it, and I believe that's what makes it unique. So, I think we can go ahead and go to the next question. Actually, I thought this one is very practical, and I think it's very useful for our audiences as well. How do you guys find the solution when the board you have prepared cannot be pulled off on the day itself? For instance, maybe due to time or some other factors. Yeah, so I guess in other words is how do you adapt when the circumstances don't work out?
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Kelvin, do you want to start with that first?
Yeah, okay. I think that situation usually happens a lot, like on especially on music video shoots. I think music video shoots we tend to develop ideas like as in you just want to go for more and more visual variation, and you tend to plan a lot. But the truth is that there's only limited time that you can execute all these ideas, and there will be at some point that you need to start giving up like certain like ideas that you have or certain things that you want to try because you ran out of time. But I think then that boils down to communication. I think for a cinematographer, it's about the relationship with the director. I think if the director and cinematographer are super in sync and communicates a lot, I think reacting to such situation is a lot easier. You that you ran out of time. You cannot execute this scene in this scale anymore. You through communication, you can immediately react to it to augment your idea to make sure that in this new variation, it still look like you basically wing it and make it look like it as if you planned for this direction, but actually it wasn't. Yeah, but I think that's just music video.
All right,
Yeah.
that's good to hear. Yeah, so maybe we can ask the same thing to the Korean team as well, right? Considering that there's so much choreography and there's so many sets, how do they adapt? If the circumstances don't work well, and how do they improvise?
제가 보기에는 요거 같은 경우는 좀 약간 좀 극단적인 케이스 같은데요. 이제 그 뮤직비디오 제작 현장에서 그 사전에 이제 그 좀 오랜 기간 동안 이제 그 준비를 해 오셨는데 이제 막상 현장에 가셨을 때 뭐 촬영 당일날 이것들을 갑자기 한꺼번에 다 못하게 되는 상황이 왔다. 이런 일이 발생하는 경우가 종종 있으셨나요? 아니면 이런 경우가 발생하셨을 때 혹시 어떤 방법으로 이제 그 솔루션을 이제 그 해결하신 적이 있는지 여기에 대해서 한번 여쭤보고 싶습니다.
일단 실제로 있지의 로꼬라는 뮤직비디오를 촬영할 때 저희가 준비했던 셋업 실제 촬영 날 비가 좀 예보와 달리 비가 많이 오게 돼서 촬영을 할 수 없는 상황이 있었는데요. 사실 그런 경우에는 결론적으로 말씀드리면 사실 또 아까 처음에 답변 드렸던 것처럼 커뮤니케이션의 문제였던 것 같아요. 커뮤니케이션이 가장 중요할 수밖에 없는 거고, 그래서 클라이언트와 아티스트와 이제 스태프들과의 커뮤니케이션을 통해서 대안책을 마련해 나가는데, 사실 그 같은 경우는 이제 날씨의 요인이 있었기 때문에 웨더데이를 따로 찾아서 스케줄 파악을 빠르게 하고 바로 그 미련을 갖지 않고 빠르게 결단을 또 내려서 촬영을 빨리 접고 다른 대안 날에 촬영할 수 있도록 했던 경험이 있습니다. 네.
So I think for you guys know the ITZY, well it is the K-pop girl group, and ITZY is the song which is called the Loco. Well, on the Loco's music video scenes, while it was raining like a torrential rain while during at the exact shooting date, because there was no such a rain during the forecast, and there was a kind of communication issues, so we just ended up it was almost impossible to shoot the scene at the specific day. Well, at the time, there is nothing we could do to dodge the rain, so we just quickly communicate with the artist and the production companies, and various different people who are involved in these kind of music videos, and just quickly set up another shooting schedules. So basically, there is nothing we could do about it. So, and we have to give up very quickly, and then set the alternative with the shooting schedule. And those kind of things happen while doing the music video productions. So, we think we perceives it a very natural way. Yeah, thank you very much.
Yeah, okay. So it's very obvious that we have our friends and our audience from Korea. And maybe I'll just, there's a question in Korean actually that just came in. I hope the translation is right. But the question is, what is the choice of recording codecs and why do you guys choose to use it during a particular music video shoot? Yeah, maybe Kelvin, you can. Oh yeah, maybe the region team can go ahead first. Yeah.
예, 이번에는 이제 그 한국에서 들어온 질문인데요. 이제 그 촬영을 하실 때 이제 그 특별히 선호하시는 이제 그 레코딩 코덱이 있는지, 그리고 이 코덱을 특별히 선호하시는 이유가 뭔지에 대해서 여쭤보고 싶다고 합니다.
네, 뮤직비디오 촬영할 때 거의 한 90%는 프로레스 444로 촬영하고 있고요. 그 가장 큰 이유가 뮤직비디오가 굉장히 많은 샷들을 찍어야 되는데 로우 포맷 같은 경우에는 데이터를 백업하고 관리하는데 좀 무거운 경향이 좀 있어서 프로레스 444를 선호하고 있고 그 이유 중에 하나도 뭐냐면 로우로 하지 않아도 444 자체 코덱이 품질이 되게 좋기 때문에 후반에서 작업하는데 문제없이 작업할 수가 있어서 선호하고 있어요. 네.
So Mr. Hong says that 90% of his music video project is shot by ProRes 444 codec because well he prefers that codec because well if he uses the raw codec well it is going to be really huge and very heavy for during the post-production stages. On the other hand, well ProRes 444 codec is very light compared to the raw format. And also at the same time, well, the quality itself is not exactly like compromising the quality. So basically, well, it is very nice to use and well, it just the shapes of certain the pressures while during the post-production stages. Thank you.
So maybe Kelvin, you can weigh in on this as well. When you do your projects, what codec are you on? Are you normally on ARRI RAW or are you on ProRes?
I mean, this has always been like a debate, right? Whether like which format is enough, and whoever that is managing the data usually prefer that we not like shoot RAW just because of the amount of data. But I think these days, like what I have been testing out is that not testing, but we're on and off. We've been using this whereby we record RAW, but the DIT dump out in HDE.
Oh.
So I think with the HDE format, I think the size brings down to like really manageable file size, maybe comparable to ProRes, and then that debate no longer exists, right? Because then if it's not about size, I mean, yeah, then that's the in between that we come to, yeah.
I see. So for those of you who are unaware or you guys are not very familiar, HDE stands for high density encoding. Essentially what it does is that it takes ARRI RAW and when you put it into a software codecs management, it shrinks it down, makes it more manageable so that you can hand over to post much more easily. Yeah, so you actually have you actually save on space, which in turn saves on cost as well. Okay, I actually have like another 5 or 6 questions, but unfortunately, my floor manager is telling me that we have to wrap up. So that's actually the end of it. So that's all the time we have today. Thank you very much to Kelvin, DJ, and Songhan, our friends from Korea, for such an insightful discussion. I believe the sheer amount of details that we have gotten from them today is really insightful, and it's really hard to come by such pieces of information. Yeah, and a lot of thanks to our friends at our friend Augustine and Bando, as well as to our crew here in Singapore for helping us out. And for our audience joining us today and for sending in your questions, we hope that you enjoyed today's episode. Now, if your question was chosen today, please email us at marketing@arri.asia and our marketing team will get back to you shortly for the giveaway. If you have any more questions, feel free to leave us a message here. And last but not least, please follow our socials on Instagram and Facebook. And we'll be posting this episode online very, very soon. So you can rewatch it. And if you require, take notes for your next video production. All right. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the episode. And I'll see you for the next episode of ARRI Asia Hour. And thank you very much.